Caleb Williams is called the quarterback under the most pressure in 2025, but is that real? We're going to talk about that, plus why him and Rome Odunze are set to make a huge second-year leap for the Chicago Bears. We're also going to talk about Azie Tripillo and his comments on why he feels he's going to win the starting left tackle position. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Terry Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today, y'all. And Caleb Williams. We all know that Caleb Williams is, all eyes are on Caleb and see what he turns into in year two. A lot's been changed to help Caleb Williams be a better quarterback this year. Ben Johnson, his play calling, upgrades to the offensive line, slot receivers in Olamide Zaccheaus, and as well as Luther Burden that's going to come in here and help the team more than them here in a little bit. So you have that, right? Another tight end in Colston Loveland as well is going to shape up to help this team out quite a bit. But it was the hiring of Ben Johnson that really started looking like this is going to be a change for Caleb Williams and what he's expected to do in year two. Now, to be clear, he still had one of the best statistical seasons of a Bears quarterback ever last season, especially rookie quarterbacks. But with that said, there were still some things that Caleb Williams did that hurt his game. Holding on to the ball too long at times. The accuracy issues at times for sure were there. Not attacking the middle of the field. These are all things Caleb is going to have to grow on if he wants to have the amount of success that he's talked about wanting to have and the skill level that he's talked about having in his NFL career. Dan Orlovsky said this: expect a big jump for Caleb Williams that he gets a top offensive guru in Johnson, an improved offensive line, and more weapons. In fact, Orlovsky believes that given the improvements Chicago made, Williams is under the most pressure in the NFL next year. Saying this: I don't think there's a quarterback in the NFL under more pressure than Caleb Williams. The expectations are remarkably high. Ben Johnson, so imagine what Sean McVay was for Jared Goff when he went there, what Mike McDaniel was for Tua when he went there. You could make the case that Caleb is more physically talented than those two guys. So this is an offensive line that's going to be much improved. They got guys to throw the football to by the dozens. It feels like a scheme that gets every quarterback to play well. Under Ben Johnson in Detroit, they scored 177 touchdowns and punted 154 times. So the expectation should be exponentially high, and Caleb has to meet those. Which then brings about what are the realistic expectations for Caleb Williams in year two. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to immediately answer that, and as I said that, they started typing their expectation statistically, and for that, it's not just about statistically for me. Now, don't make no mistake about it. Stats matter, and I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams could put up 2,500 yards passing, and I'm going to look at it like this is amazing season, but it's not just about the statistical output for Caleb for me. Now, if he can build off the 3,500 passing yards that he had last year, average of 208 yards per game, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions that he had there, but it's not just about that. To me, what I'm watching for Caleb Williams is he processing the field better? Is he understanding how and where to get the ball out to his players a little bit better? Is he understanding where and when to make plays with his legs versus waiting for the play to develop and make plays with his arms? What are those things? That's some of the biggest stuff that I'm looking for personally for Caleb this season. And yes, with doing those things, he should have great stats. But that's the thing that I'm looking at for the most. I feel like at times last year, Caleb Williams was trying to hold on to that streak of not throwing interceptions, and for that, he didn't take some risk that I think actually, when you watch Caleb Williams' game over the course of his collegiate career, he is a quarterback that takes risks, and some of those pay off, right? He talked about one of the guys that he does look that he idolizes is Aaron Rodgers. What is Aaron Rodgers? He's a gunslinger, and so some of that's going to come with some of course, mistakes, and you don't want to make mistakes just for the sake of taking risks, but I do think that Caleb could have afforded to take a little bit more risk down the field last season, and so those are things that I'm looking for. the growth that I want to see from Caleb doesn't just come down to the statistics. That doesn't come down because we have talent. We have more talent. We're going to have better play calling. Ideally, he should be able to statistically get what he got to last year plus more, right? But it's about more than just the number of yards that he passed and how many touchdowns he passes. That's going to be great for the conversation piece. That's going to be great for the thing and for the people who don't have the time or the desire to watch every single game to talk about Caleb Williams' game. But for me, it's about more than that. I'm looking at how he processes things as a leader and as a quarterback, because that mental part of the game, if that gets better for Caleb Williams, he has the talent to where the statistical part is definitely going to get better. But I want to see how he grows mentally in this game, the poise, right? Not expecting him to be as poised as a seasoned veteran quarterback, but I'm looking forward to be more poised than what he was last year. And this is not the body language conversation that was had earlier in the offseason around Caleb. That's not what I'm trying to turn this into. It's not about that, right? But it's about the things that go into what being a great quarterback is. And so I want to see more of that from Caleb Williams this year. And I think Caleb has the capability and the ability to get that done, right? And so I always like to, I say this a lot. To me, it's about how much of the standards that you set for yourself are you living up to. So I want to see a Caleb Williams that's living up to what he says, and he wants to be a great quarterback in this league. That's what I want to see from Caleb. So, the stats are going to be good, I hope, especially under Ben Johnson. We're going to air the ball out. We're going to have a very creative offense. So the stats should be there. But I want to see the poise. I want to see the mental part of the game. I want to see a quarterback that looks like they're ready and put in a position to really, truly break out and have some things that you don't necessarily expect from that, right? I think those are going to be things that we hear. And that's going to be great. And Caleb Williams, along with Rome Odunze, were both named by Pro Football Focus as on their all breakout team, which, keep in mind, Pro Football Focus left Caleb Williams off a list of the top players. They were under 24, 25, something like that. But with that said, that Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze were both listed on the all breakout team. And here's the thing. I think that's legitimate. I think Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, them and breakouts are important. Now, what does a breakout look like? And that's what I said. For Caleb Williams, it's more than just the stats. But I do think, if he even keeps the stats the same, if he keeps 3,500 yards, which I think now in the modern NFL you want to be, I think Caleb can easily be more towards 38, maybe even 4,000 yards. But I think 35 to 3,800 yards is a fair place. If you go up from the 20 touchdowns to 30, right, and keep the interceptions 6 to 10, I think that's a really good season for Caleb Williams in the second year, right? And when you look at what Caleb did through 2 head coaches, 3 offensive coordinators last year, there's a lot of reason to think that he's going to take that next step up. And like I said, it's more than just statistically. Now, Rome Odunze, for wide receivers, a lot of it does come down to stats. I get it, air yards and all. Well, air yards is more for quarterback, but all that type of thing matters. But Rome, 54 passes, 734 yards last year. He got into the end zone 3 times last year. But I think now Rome Odunze is going to have a way heavier workload than what he had last year. I think that's paramount at this point. Our academic, I think, is the word I'm looking for. He's going to have that at this point in time because he's going to be looked on to do more. And I think they're going to be ready for him to express that and to have that level of impact for the Chicago Bears. So Rome, those stats definitely, I think you definitely want to see close to 1,000 yards receiving for Rome this year. If not closer to 1,100 to 1,200, that really depends on how it works out between Rome and DJ. You got a lot of players that Caleb's going to be throwing to this year. You got Rome, you got DJ Moore, you got Loveland, you got Cole Kmet, you got Luther Burden. So they're going to be spreading that ball out quite a bit next year. But so I don't know if just to come down to the stat, if it's going to be 1,200 yards. But I think also Rome needs to be looking to get to the end zone 6 to 8 times this year. I think that happens. Rome's thing right now is the separation skills, right? I think that's what he's going to have to benefit from, creating better separation when it comes down to it. And if he can do that, I think that he can get there. And while he already has the ability to make tough catches, those are all there for him. And he's going to be a really good complement to DJ Moore, and they're going to balance each other out. I think when you look at the way that Rome Odunze has also transformed his body this offseason, there's more than enough reason to believe that Rome is going to be ready, able, and willing to step up and take on a larger workload this season. And so Rome and Caleb being named on the all breakout team, you better goddamn well right. They better break out this year, because guess what? These are 2 guys that are going to be so paramount to what Ben Johnson's offensive philosophies and schemes are. And not to say that they're the only 2 guys, because they're not, but they're definitely guys that you have to look at and be prepared to step up next season. And I think that they will be ready. I do think that they will be ready. Rome's talked a lot about wanting to fix the things that kind of lacked in his game last year. I think having that awareness from Rome Odunze is exactly where you want him to be. Rome seems like he understands what he needs to do and where he can be better in year 2, as does Caleb Williams. And hearing that both these guys are putting in the work to really grow under Ben Johnson and learn that system, that's going to be important thing there. And so I think fixing the weaknesses of both these guys are already with the new coaching staff, with the new line, is going to be a really big thing when it comes down to that. Rome Odunze said this as well as one of the things that he needs to work on, right? He says, there's a lot of nitpicking and grabbing in this league that isn't always shown. I feel like I needed to build the upper body mass to be able to combat some of those things. And he's done that, right? He's done that. When you look at Rome and the physicality that he's added this offseason, Rome has definitely added that bit of thing to his game. Now, the question is how you're going to use it, right? How are you going to use that to take and propel you going into next season to be better ready for all the hand movements and things like that happen? Like, there's a lot of fighting that goes on to get off that offensive line. And so let's hope that Rome's prepared for that, to get out there into the open field, because if you can get Rome Odunze that's consistently creating a little bit of separation, that changes a lot for the Chicago Bears. It changes a lot for his game and that chemistry between him and Caleb Williams. So I think we're going to have to continue to see that, and we'll see that grow overall from both these guys. But Caleb, Rome, these are two guys that I'm looking heavily at to see not only what they do now under Ben Johnson's system, but how they've grown from year 1 to year 2, because these are the two guys that we drafted to be the 1-2 punch for us, right? Of course, with DJ Moore signing him to a contract extension and things like that, Caleb has the weapons. Rome has the quarterback to get him the ball and the scheme now that's going to be able to better utilize him than what he was used last year. Let's go out there and get it done, and let's see what these guys can bring. But from our picks last year to Ben Johnson having some concern over one of the second-round picks this year, and that's when it comes to Luther Burden, right? He was asked about Luther Burden and the reps that are going to be available to him. He said this. He misses a lot. I mean, anytime you're not out there, if you're in the training room when the rest of the guys are practicing, you're losing valuable time with your coaches, valuable reps with your teammates, the ability to build the trust that we're talking about. It's not just the coaching staff having trust in you doing the right thing over and over, but it's also your teammates. They got to be out there. They got to go out there and see you do it. They got to know that you're that the guy right left of them, that they're going to do the right things, that they're going to make plays when called upon. And, I mean, Ben Johnson has also said that Luther Burden is going to be ready by training camp, that they don't really have very much doubt about that. But it does seem like Ben Johnson does have some concern with the amount of time that Luther Burden has missed. Is he going to be able to get that shorthand with his teammates? That is important, especially when you're working in a new offense, right? For Luther Burden, you're coming into a new league. So I think all those concerns are valid from Ben Johnson. And when you hear about like Olamide Zaccheaus having the offseason program that he's had, to where he's been really good and a standout in a lot of ways, Luther's going to have to come in to the training camp period and show and remind everybody, like, no, I'm ready, right? What you've done with being on the sideline, how have you physically gotten ready? How have you learned the playbook? How have you taken that time to really set some things aside and learn the mental part of the playbook? That's going to be important for Luther Burden. Burden can make a really big impact for this team. Make no mistake about it, right? He had an amazing career in college. You can't take that away from him, and what he was able to do there from 2022 to 2024, and what he's done as a slot receiver. He is shaped up to be a really good slot receiver in this league, with the chance to move more towards the outside and do more things out there as well. But you have to be in practice. You have to be able to show that and build that chemistry and that connectivity with your coaching staff and with your players. And so hopefully Luther's going to be able to get over some of the reps that he's missed. Ben Johnson said he's missed a lot, and that's real. He has missed a lot, but there's still more than enough time. And Burton's going to get an opportunity to show what he can bring here in training camp and in the preseason, those type of things. But it's important that he hits that ground running and reminds everybody, hey, no, this is why you drafted me. This is what I can do here, and build that chemistry with Caleb. You have to have chemistry with your quarterback. We've seen talented players who don't have chemistry with each other not be able to necessarily hit the most, right? You can get by off raw talent. Chemistry can push that raw talent a little bit further, and that's what Ben Johnson is trying to drill home here with these words, I feel like. So hopefully they're able to do that. I think that they will be able to. I'm not too worried about Luther Burden. Yes, he's missed some time, but I think him and Colston Loveland, they're going to be able to get it together, because I think both their roles are going to be so tailor fit to what they do well that they're going to be able to get over that little bit of a curve that they miss because they're just asked to do things that instinctively they already do well and build off of that. And because of that, I think they're going to be in a fine place when this all shakes out during, training camp and things like that. And we'll see what happens there. But overall, I think they'll be fine. I hope they'll be fine. Maybe I'm a little too hopeful there, but I think they'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. Ben Johnson, while he did raise some concern here, he's already talked about he's not too worried about it either. So let's keep that going. But the other second round pick that we got, and Azie Tripillo, who's competing for a starting left tackle position, has been he's turned a lot of heads. Everybody that's seen Colston Loveland has talked about how he goes about things the right way. He's just somebody who's advanced, and when you look at the experience that he's brought to that, it's really important when it comes down to it. Azie Tripillo really does believe in himself, and I think that's something that you feel when it comes down to this, right? And he was doing an interview with WGN News where he talked about his confidence that he can compete for a starting job and where it comes from, and he said this.
Yeah, I think, the coaches at BC did a great job. Coach Applebaum, my old O-line coach, he really did a good job playbook-wise with the entire O-line, putting a lot of emphasis on, the minor details and making sure that we're really keyed in because a lot of that translate to the NFL. And then the coaches here have also done a great job installing it all. It's not like they're just throwing it all at you. They sit down, they teach it, any questions get answered. So I think just overall it's been taught to me very well. So it's easy.
And I think that says a lot about the mentality of an Azie Tripillo and what he can bring to this team, right? When you look at what Matt Applebaum has been, right? And so when you have a guy like that looks at Colston Loveland the way that they do, I'm sorry, I keep saying Colston Loveland, Azie Tripillo the way that he does, I think that makes some sense. Azie Tripillo comes from a good cloth of it. He has the size, he has the athleticism, he has what Ben Johnson typically likes to get from his players on that offensive line. Now, I'm not here to say that he's just going to run away with the starting position. No, because he's going to have to come in and compete for it. And Braxton Jones better not make it easy on his ass. I want Braxton, I want Kieran Amagaze to continue to push this young guy. But I tell you what, like I've said, there's something about Azie Tripillo to me that just stands out as, all right, this is a guy that feels like somebody that you can trust to just go out there and do their job well. And that's something to be said there, right? I don't think Azie Tripillo is going to have the problem with the bull rush that Braxton Jones does. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be as good in some of the other areas. He's going to have some rookie mistakes. And there are going to be some people that immediately react to that and say things like, oh my God, well, should we bring Braxton back in? But he's going to go through it. The question that you have to ask here is, how much higher do you see Azie Tripillo ceiling over Braxton Jones ceiling? And what you come down to with that, that's going to be a big determining factor on how you evaluate this. And that's for the Bears coaching staff to answer. But Dan Rouchar is a guy that you got to trust his ability to get it done. And so we'll see. I love Azie Tripillo. I love what we've heard from him. I think when you look at his game and the versatility, the strength that he has there, he has that modern tackle game. And the left tackle position is a hugely important one in the NFL. And Azie Tripillo has the chance to come in and earn that position in year one as a rookie. And let's see what he does with it. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. But from that, I want to talk a little bit about Jaquan Brisker before we get out of here. Me, C-Dub, and Bobby had a conversation. I think it was 2 Sundays ago when we did a live stream. Fact check me on that one. But one of the things that was raised by the guys was, does Jaquan Brisker come out there and play more safe to avoid concussions? And Jaquan Brisker talked about that. When he asked if he's going to change his play style, he said this: no, I'm not. I'm good. I'm past that point. I'm really moving on. I'm just focused on playing ball. I'm really clear of mine. I'm really good. When he talked about his health, I'm going to continue to play the same way. That was my first time really having a contact injury. He hit his head on my neck, so it kind of hit his helmet at the right spot, really just moving on from that. And I think that's what he needs to do. When we were asked that question, I said, you don't want to start thinking too much when you're playing out there. That's when injuries really start happening, at least in my opinion, right? So I don't want a Jaquan Brisker that's out there thinking about the play style that he plays. Of course, be safe. Everybody should be safe. But I don't want him thinking, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that because I don't want another concussion. I want him to go out there and play his style. Now, whether he wears a Guardian cap or whatever happens there, that we'll see what happens with that. But I want a Jaquan Brisker that's going to go out there and play his game, because his game is what's helped him stood out. Of course, be a little safer, but I don't want him to be thinking too much on it. I don't want him to do that because I think Braxton I'm sorry, why am I saying Braxton? I think Jaquan Brisker just needs to go out there and be himself. I think that's the important part of all of this. You want Jaquan to go out there and be the player that he was meant to be and just stay healthier doing it. Players have gotten hurt trying to think too much while they're out there. So go out there, play naturally. Like I said, that play that put him out last year, that was something that it wasn't him doing anything wrong on. Now, if it was him doing something wrong, that'd be different. But it wasn't him doing anything wrong out there. It was just a freak accident that happened, unfortunately, and that's what led to where it is. And, so you can't operate under the assumption that that's going to happen all the time. That's not what I would want to see him do. And let's hope that it comes down to Jaquan plays much better this year, that he stays on the football field, and then we're talking about how Jaquan Brisker is going to be a part of this Bears team going forward into the future for a while. That's what I want to see here. But you guys, as always, can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down, y'all. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.